Yeah, can I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome everybody, and I'm very happy that they're all we all have registered and you want to listen to me. Before I start, as usual, I think it is expected of me to tell Mula story. Today's story is like this. First time when Mula came to India, when he crossed the mountains and came into the Indian territory, he was very hungry and he had only few dinars in his pocket. And he saw the first person in a basket just selling some lovely red, fruit, which he thought is fruit. So he went to him and he doesn't know the language. So he just gave him this dinar and asked him to give the fruit. And that fellow gave the whole basket of fruit to him and went away. So he thought it's lovely. India is so, the fruit are so cheap here. And then he started eating them. And what they were actually, these are red chilies. India is, in India, chilies are not very costly. But he ate one and it is so hot. And he was his eyes started watering and he could not control. It was so hot. But still, he started kind of consuming. A passerby went to him and said, "You madman, what are you? Can't eat chilies just like that." So he looked at him and said, "Sir, I'm not eating chilies anymore. I'm eating my money." What this story tells is before you start looking at something, you should know what you're going to consume. So I think today we are going to talk about design education. Before that, we should first know what design is, because there are many interpretations of design. Design is as old as mankind. That is one way of saying it. And which is right too, because man has been designing since, as soon as so-called intelligence has dawned on him. Those people who have seen Stanley Kubrick's marvelous film, an old film called, it's the 60s film, 2001 Space Odyssey, he says how the ape has become, when it evolved into a man, and the intelligence and the creativity also evolved along with it. And the ape learned to use the tool, and he says that is the birth of intelligence, and I call that is the birth of design. That is one way of looking at it. Then why are we talking about, if man has been doing it for so long without any education, why are we talking about it? We are talking about it because design is also youngest profession, perhaps one of the youngest. Why it is youngest? Because the way we understand today design, after the industrial mass production started, which is not very long ago. So therefore it is young. So design is as old as the mankind, but modern design as a profession is very young, and I would add also confused. It is still confused after so many years. We have kind of spent more than 100 years, but people say 100 years is nothing in history. But still, we are very confused every time. The students are confused, teachers are confused, and the professionals practicing design also are confused. A kind of a good, very brief look at the world also is necessary at this minute. The world's first design school started at Royal College of Art. At that time, it was called Government School of Design. It started in London. That is 1837. And interestingly, Madras School of Art in India, the first art school, they call it in those days, design word is not used. It's called industrial arts. The art school started in Madras, now Chennai, in 1850. The next year, 1851, saw the world's first Crystal Palace. Is very historical Crystal Palace exhibition in 1851, where Indian artifacts have been exhibited there, mainly craft products. So first time the world has seen in mass the Indian crafts. So that was it. And these Indian schools of art, the Madras School of Art is followed by JJ School of Art in Bombay in 1857, and then in Calcutta Government School of Art in 1864. That is how in the world this thing is. And we all know about Bauhaus. Anybody who kind of deals with design, you cannot ignore Bauhaus, which was started only in 1919. Many people believe that National Institute of Design is the first design school, modern design school in India. It's not so. I'm going to say NID is the third design school in India. So which is the first design school in India? That goes back to Rabindranath Tagore, who got the Nobel Prize. And afterwards, he, in his magnanimity, he started this great school called Shantiniketan. That is in 1913. But afterwards, after he visited Bauhaus, he started in the same year, 1919, he added Vishwabharati or for the industrial arts. That can be called, Vishwabharati can be called as the design school, which is still running. At that time, it is called Vichitra Studio in 1919. The Bauhaus later, because his Bauhaus connection is interesting with India. So Bauhaus connection is not only NID connection. Before that, long before NID came into existence, Shantiniketan had the connection. In fact, Walter Gropius had visited Calcutta and Shantiniketan. And there is an exhibition in Calcutta in 1922 on the Bauhaus work. And that is the beginning. And there is one great lady, I think her name should be mentioned, called Stella Kramrisch, is instrumental in bringing Bauhaus education exhibition on Bauhaus work to India. She is a great lady. She worked with Shantiniketan, and she also fell in love with the Indian aesthetics, and she did a monumental work and monumental benefit to all Indians. She translated Vishnu Dharmottara, which is actually a treatise on art and design, into English. So now it is available to everyone who can't read Sanskrit. Now we will go back to we will leave Shantiniketan. In this talk, I want to, since we don't have much time, I would like to concentrate only the first 50 years of design in India, which means actually first 10 years of NID. Because earlier Shantiniketan, and I would not dwell much about Shantiniketan, and which is then the second design institute. Many people will be wondering, you see, we have Bihar, and normally people, look down upon Bihar, which is a great state. Education, some of the most marvelous experiments in education started in that state. And this time also, you will be surprised to know there is Upendra Maharathi Institute of Industrial Design started there in Patna, Bihar, in 1941, long before NID started. So actually, 40 years before NID started, Rabindranath Tagore started a design institute. And 20 years before NID started, Upendra Maharathi started industrial design school. But now Upendra Marathi school has been closed for whatever reasons unknown. There is no record also kept. Now, if you go, let us go further. India got independence in 1947, and the Nehruvian development plans have taken place. I think that's very key factor in bringing industrial design to India, because the Nehru's vision was to bring industrialization as quickly as possible to this country, which is kind of for so many years has been suffering. So he started all the major irrigation projects and the industrial projects and the education. At that time, we should also remember the Cold War politics are going on, and Nehru probably, in his own wisdom, has taken a neutrality where he would like to build bridges with America, one major power in the world at that time, and Russia, another major power at that time. So he was trying to be friendly with both the countries, and Ford Foundation was very active in India and supporting, with the with various financial needs. There are two great ladies I should mention here. Without that, we cannot go ahead talking about design education in India. One is Craft Revival by a Gandhian, a lady, a great lady, Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay. She started many things. I won't get into that because she herself is a kind of a legend. And another legendary person who is directly involved in bringing design, industrial design to this country is Pupul Jaikar, a great lady. In fact, Pupul Jaikar's meeting of Charles Eames and his team in America, an idea was born to her, and then she happened to, her closeness with the government at that time, and she happened to get him invited to India to see what kind of industrial design this country needs. That is first. And Charles Eames, because what he is, he didn't want to suddenly come and suggest something in the Bauhaus lines or the Royal College lines or some other lines. So in his own wisdom, he said, I should first understand what is India. So he came, he and Ray Eames, his wife, they both have come and they have toured over the country. And in the end, that was in 1958. In the end, they submitted a report called India Report. Now it is a kind of landmark. This is only 20-page cyclostyle. In those days, Xerox is not there. It's a cyclostyle paper. I have the original with me. This 20-page report doesn't say anything specific. I was told by people when they saw him presenting it, the ministry was surprised because there are no elaborate, detailed budgets and they detailed machinery, equipment, infrastructure, nothing of it. Charles Eames starts this report with one, very, very Indian, particularly Hindu, philosophy of Bhagavad Gita shloka, Karmanye Vyadhikaraste Mafalesh Kadechana, and the whole shloka. I won't recite it. But when I saw it, I was struck how this American came to know about it and why he thought this should be the foreword for India Report. It took me some years to understand why this great man had done it. But I won't go into that. But what I would say is he kind of praised 2 pages of this 20-page report go in praising Lota. And he fell in love with Lota. And he says in this report how Lota is a wonderful design, its ergonomics, its aesthetics, its sound, it is the way it is carried on the curve of a woman, 100 things. It's very, very poetically said. Yeah, if you have a copy, please read. Those who haven't read it, I read it very often. And then he says that you have to create, all that he said is this, You have to interpret your own needs. Wisely said, because how does he know what our needs are? Only Indians know. And Indians should create the lotus of our time. That's very well said. So, this lotus of our time, this all he said, and that interpretation has to be done by us. But then you always wondered how Nationalist of Design came into being from this very esoteric kind of report, very philosophical kind. There I must say, this is, when the government of India is thinking of where it should be located, either in Hyderabad, which is a craft center, Moradabad, which is another craft center in the north, and various things. It is, I think, the vision of, there are two great Sarabhais. We must always be thankful to them. One is Vikram Sarabhai, who gave the country its space research in science. He has taken us to very, very high level. And the other one, actually unsung hero, is Gautam Sarabhai, his illustrious brother, who is instrumental in bringing design to this country. He and his, sister Geeraben, they have kind of given land and given, their money and everything else, because the government will take time, the bureaucracy, and they want to cut through the bureaucracy. So they came forward and given everything and asked the government, and the government fortunately is friendly at that time to the Sarabhais, and they said, why can't Ahmedabad? Ahmedabad is also craft center, and it's a very rich. It's for business. There is no city like Ahmedabad, and finally the government has given there, and there is no space. So, but they don't want to leave any time lapse in it. So they said, we have, by that time, Ahmedabad already has the Le Corbusier's famous museum in Paldi, next to the river. So they said, why can't we, because that museum not much is happening, why can't we have the industrial design, the design school there itself till we find a new building? I was really struck by the ingenuity of Geeraben, because I was told she was looking for land. She wanted to have some very, very, inspiring area, which is, of course, next to river is always very inspiring. There is one huge burial ground, 20 acres. She said, can we buy this? Because normally people don't buy burial grounds, because we have, Indians have this sentiment. Geeraben said, I believe in science. I don't believe in, sentiments. You give it to me. But the mayor, she said to the mayor, I was told by Darshit Patel, she said to the mayor that, but you have to sell it to me. Don't give it to me as a donation. It is a very good move, because if you give it as a donation, first it is very indignified. Next, then, one day, some other mayor will come and take it. She said, no. There should be a sale deed. So there is a sale deed for a 1 rupee, 20 acres of river, riverbank land. Geeraben has got it. Of course, some of it we lost during the floods. That is another story. I won't tell you now. But this is a marvelous thing, how Geeraben and Gautam Bhai have actually got the land to start this institute. Now I want to concentrate, since the design education is so vast and there are so many institutions that have contributed. This time, I would like to mention only 3 institutions, which are government run and government initiated institutions. NID, of course, is one. The other one is in IIT Bombay, IDC, because we are talking about the beginnings. And the other one, which came much later in 1986, is NIFT, which is Fashion Institute. So these 3 institutes. Now, in my talk, I will only focus on the first 10 years, which is the NID 10 years. Yeah, IDC started in 1969 in Bombay, and then in Delhi, NIFT started. Now, let us focus on how design education started at NID. We should see the context, what was happening in India at that time. I would say 1960s, that is the golden era for education in the country, in India. Because all the big and eminent institutions today, like IIM and all the IIMs, IITs, NID, CEPT, ISRO, SAC, I don't have to, SAC is the Space Application Center, JNU, all of them in the Indian Institute of Advanced Studies in Shimla, all of them have started during that time. This is that golden period. And not only that, it's not only starting some big institutions. I think the government has the vision at that time. How will we start these great institutions unless there is a great thinking behind? So they have invited world's top class people from all over the world. So we have got India during that time has got Buckminster Fuller, names like Buckminster Fuller, Henry Matisse, an artist, Ivan Illich, educationist, and of course our own Krishnamurti. And in architecture, we have got Corbusier building 4 kind of this landmark buildings in India itself, and Louis Kahn having his, of course, his well-known IIM Ahmedabad building. And then we also have seen Bernard Kuhn and Walter Gropius coming to India. And on the design side, industrial design side, we have, of course, Charles and Reims. We had Nakashima. We have Hans Guzello from Ulm, and then Bob Gill from Royal College of Art, Adrian Frutiger, and Cartier Bresson. And I can go on, but I want, this list is endless. But these names you will today, if you see any book on history of design, these are the names which you will not miss them. They all have been brought to India, not brought just to see the country or do a project, but they are brought to train young people. This is the most crucial thing, to train young Indians to teach good design to others. And this is a very important thing. I don't know whether we could ever replicate this, but that is really marvelous thing which has happened. So some of us have been fortunate enough to study under these people. And these people who have come to India, they are not teachers themselves, they are performers. So what was allowed at that time is that you learn from these people by apprentice method. They will do a project, Bob Gill will come and he does a project, and we all, as students, we used to assist him. Same with Charles Sim, same with Nakashima. So all these people, they will do their work. Of course, they will also give talks time to time, but they will allow you to do, observe and absorb what they have been kind of saying and doing. Now coming to NID itself, I think the foundations are laid by Gautam Sarabhai, even not just the building foundations, but the philosophical foundations are laid by many people, but led by Gautam Sarabhai. And he has got such an innovative mind and a mind for experiment. So he could boldly take decisions. There are 2 things. One is the physical level, that is the building. He insisted that the building should be, the NID building should be totally different, totally innovative. And he didn't have any architect there. Priyankar Gupta was asking me the other day, who is the Balram, do you know who is the architect of the NID? I laughed and said, there is no architect. There is no architect. But Mr. Gautam Sarabhai has borrowed many ideas from the world over architects. And the structural consultant, Mr. Ramaswamy, from the Building Research Institute, Roorkee. He said this building should speak for design to anyone who comes here. That is how Ramaswamy has kind of, I will show you when I show you the visuals, has built this 40 feet by 40 feet brick roof. There is no kind of reinforcement. There's no RCC there. And this 40 feet by 40 feet dome is a huge span. And that weight, will it go up? So all the masons said, no, we won't work on it. And this is a suicide. So it seems that Mr. Gautam Sarabhai said, all right, I will leave a suicide note and I will stand under the, you see, the dome is first constructed on the floor and then it was by cranes lifted up. So when it is lifted up, the masons put their tools down and said, this is a suicide, we don't agree. So he said, no, you see, I'm giving guarantee, I will stand under it when it goes up. And the first dome, which is still there standing till tall, the first one next to the auditorium, when you go to NID, go to the auditorium, you will stand in that foyer. That is the first dome which has gone up. And once it has gone up and the masons got confidence, then all other domes go up. But anyway, there are many things. I mean, one could talk about the NID building itself. There are many innovations for hours together, but I won't delve into it. But we will concentrate on what is the educational innovation, was initiated by Gautam Sarabhai. There's one good thing, Gautam Sarabhai, and at that time, another gentleman from IIM, first director, Mr. Ravi Mathai, they both have contributed a lot, and they had established a very kind of consultative kind of systems where no decision is taken by a single person. Everything is consulted. Even we were at that time, very small people. I mean, we are chitkus, but still he will ask me, he will call a meeting of the students and say, what do you think? This idea will work? So we feel so thrilled that we have been made part of this whole process of, building an institution. And of course, we give, that is his style. That is his style. And two important things I should mention, the educational philosophy and the culture which is established is so strong. And I think that is why NID is still running after so many years, after 55 years, is because the first thing he said is never, ever imitate. You look outside, you look whatever is happening, the latest one, but don't imitate, find your own, because the medicine which is good for somebody else is not good for you. So that is one thing he made it very clear. Many people think there are kind of unfound comments made at NID. The product design is Bauhaus or Wulm influence, and the furniture is Danish, and textiles is because of Elena Pellimpa, Finland, and all that, which is not true. We had inspired, but we tried to always articulate our own needs from the beginning. The other one, he said, question everything, don't accept anything without question. These two things he insisted that every time you should do. So he would go to the basics. My teacher and Guru Kumar Vyas often tells me about him that Gautam Bhai never accepts anything just like that. He will go to the basics. If you say design education, he said first, let us look at what education is. And then he will say, let us look at what design is. So then we will have discussions, for not only daytime, but nighttime and evenings, every time, till we come to some kind of consensus. That's how it has been built. I think that's a lovely time. There are some things, before I show you some pictures, and then I will leave the forum for questions and answers. We should spend more time on that. everybody must be wondering, India at that time was very poor, right? It's just, after independence, we don't have much money. And yeah, so one is, there is no, where are the teachers? There are no teachers. Where are the students? There are no students. Where are the clients? There are no clients. And all that indicated there is no money. So how do we start an institution, a design institution, at the aspiration is at a global quality institution without any of these things? So where do you get the teachers? Where do you get the students? Where do you get the clients? Where do you get the money? First of all, I already mentioned the money problem is, at least partially solved at that time, because many American funding agencies are coming to India to be friendly, have a friendly kind of relation with this great upcoming country. Nehru has somehow managed it. So Ford Foundation is one of the big funding agency at that time. Ford Foundation supported the whatever NID was doing, including many of the designers came from Europe and America, so it was funded. And the many afterwards, the first batch of teachers who are young, they were also sent abroad with that money. I was one of them. So where do you get the teachers? So Mr. Sarabhai has got this idea that we have to have Indian teachers here. We can't rely on the foreign teachers for a long time, but you have some Indian teachers who will be trained by the visiting foreign experts. So, but who are these people? So he thought, MS University by that time was there.
Sir, your audio is not clear.
To learn into this unknown area called design, which is communication design. The communication design broadly included film, animation, and typography, all of them. And some people, kind of specialized in typography, some in film, some Ishu Patel in film, and Mahendra Patel in typography, Vikas Satulekar in graphics, like that. And for the industrial design, where you needed some technology of the materials, so then he thought, let us tap the polytechnics and engineering schools. So he brought, he looked for, it's very interesting thing, he looked for dropout kind of people. They're not really dropouts. It's like me, take my case. I was studying engineering and I was working as an engineer also, but my heart is never there on engineering. I found out later that I like painting and I like sketching and I like poetry. So they tapped people like me who are actually not satisfied with what they're doing, or they just studied something because everybody says engineering is good, there is a lot of job prospects. They said so they invited these kind of dropout or outcasts from their fields and trained them. They also got some people from the real profession, like the weaving community or the craft community, people who would who are moldable and who have got the good learning attitude. So people like that have been called. Then what about, how do you convince people to have to come to study design in those days? Even today, it's very difficult because people have very big misunderstanding about what design is. In those days, it was even more. So one important thing which NID started is education is only one part of it. It has got another part, another two parts. One is performing, that is professional practice through the institute. And NID being the government organization under the Ministry of Commerce and Industries, it is easy for the government to trust this institute and give big projects like Agri Expo, energy. There are so many, national and international level projects which come to the government. Government started passing on. But the advantage for the institute is students' participation in those projects. Yeah, not only that the institute will get some money from that as a professional fees, but the main advantage is students will get to see how their teachers are working on this project, and if possible, they're also participating in the project. There are some projects where the whole institute, from foundation level to fifth year level, everybody participated in the project. They are so big projects. So that is a kind of lovely learning. That is one way of getting projects from the government. Then simultaneously, NID started something called extension. Extension. I will come back in a minute. I think there is some problem with the video.
Sorry, there's a small connection problem for Balram sir. He should be there in a few minutes.
Small technical hitch. Can you hear
Yes.
me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. What should I repeat? You heard?
You were audible, sir. You were audible. Only thing is
Audio is okay.
Yeah, audio is
So I will show you some of the so I will show you some visuals now, which will illustrate some of the points which I have mentioned. Yeah, we are uploading the visuals. Okay. So I said about the extension programs, which we have established 4 cells in 4 major cities of India: Delhi, Madras, now Chennai, and Bangalore, and Calcutta. These cities, we've established cells through which the idea is to conduct regular workshops for people from the craft communities and from even general public to come and learn. The first slide, this is the slide I hope you can see. This is the kind of archival slide. This is about the NID foundation. I mean, this is the inauguration of NID building. At that time, if you see, please notice, this is called National Design Institute. So afterwards, somebody has pointed out that it's not a good English. It should be actually National Institute of Design. Then it has been subsequently changed to National Institute of Design. Okay. Now we will show the this is the NID building when it was just, there were no trees, nothing. This when it was just made and built. The tomb you see the other side, it is deliberately kept to give a contrast to the modern, highly modern building and the old ancient tomb. Yeah. Next. This is the NID at night. Next. I want to show you here, this is a bank. The experimentation happened on one hand with very high, materials like concrete and glass and rosewood and all that. But on the other hand, this is also in NID campus. It's a bamboo, two-story bamboo house, which has been, built. I'm talking about 1960s. This has been built. Of course, unfortunately, it was washed away. Next, washed away in floods. This is uh, this is the expo, this World Fair in Osaka. It's kind of it's worked on by, we had foreign consultants Ivan Sharmayev and others who have worked on it. Finally, we could not succeed in implementing it, but this is a very beautiful project. With the, we were also making some good connections with Russia and also Czechoslovakia. This is a multi-screen projection, very, kind of, we were all very charged. This is 32 screen, kind of, it's a kind of panorama projection, very interesting thing. Then this is the canopy, which is a 40 feet by 40 feet canopy, very beautiful tensile structure. And that is another experiment we have done. The membrane is canvas. This is, in this picture, you see, this is how the evaluation used to happen, where Gautam Sarabhai and Gera Sarabhai, who was the executive director at that time, and Ensminger, Douglas Ensminger from Ford Foundation, they all are there. And some of the, on the wall, one could see some of the symbols, Electronics Corporation and Indian Airlines, which are worked out by NID faculty. Some of the people who visited, this is not in the 60s, it's in the 70s, just before Mr. Charles Sims passed away, his revisit. So he wanted to visit and see how his India report has been implemented by the young Indian faculty. And this is when he visited. Unfortunately, Mr. Dashat Patel, Charles Sims, and Kumar Vyas, they all are now not there anymore. Next. Yeah, this is the this is where NID building was used in a way that the workshop is the central to the whole learning, and a student is supposed to learn more from the outside than inside. This is the long corridor next to the lawn, which is normally used for sketching and all that. I mentioned about the mega government projects. That time, this is, you can see Darshit Patel and Indira Gandhi. We were working at that time on Nehru and New India. This is a big project. It was as a permanent exhibition. Afterwards, it was in the Pragati Maidan for a long, long time. The other notable ones, one is the UNIDO exit meeting, the first ever to be held in a developing country, but not only the first ever to be held in a developing country, but I think its scale and its innovation is mind blowing, and I must say, Mr. Ashok Chatterjee is responsible for bringing this project, fighting with the exit and fighting with the UNIDO and to get these people. It's a 10-day conference, which is spread over half the time at NID and half the time at IDC. And, we were, and there were visits to craft units. There are visits to the city. It has been done it's like a big, complex, a movie operation. But it's done very well. And from 37 countries, delegates have visited us. And this is something which I would never forget, although it's happened in 1979. Next. One of the people we will not forget, he's also not anymore there, but he has become an icon of sorts, this famous American. You know him. You read his design for the real world, which focuses first time the real world. See, we are not. I mean, it also implies that we are not designing for the real world. You are designing for the other world, which is a rich world. What he meant is that, and his book has been translated into 16 other languages, and he is an icon at that time. And he also attended the UNIDO exit meeting at that time. We were fortunate enough to meet him. Yeah, there is a group now called Victor Papanek group. Should also mention it happened much later, but I wanted to include the kind of projects which we were at NID were looking forward to do, and this is in the area of inclusive design or universal design. It's called the first ever national level conference focusing on the design for the disability is done by at NID. And for that, at that time I was there working with NID, and I went to the director and said, if you are holding this, first of all, NID building itself should be accessible to wheelchair. And fortunately, the director that time, because of the letter, he has agreed, and he took the bold decision to break the building because there is no architect for giving permission. So we took permission ourselves and made the building accessible because earlier there used to be ledges everywhere. And, if you don't look down, many times even normal people used to fall. So we made that building accessible, and it has been a good conference. This is the way a national level institute should work in. There are some projects on education. This is the. Hello, you can't hear. Next.
So we can hear you. We can hear you.
You can hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is some, you see, we used to constantly feel that we are not doing enough for the common man of this country. And the common man of this country is, people talk about India and Bharat, two separate things in this one country. Bharat, which is the rural India, we want to do something. So this is agricultural tool, seed drill, which the students, as students, we worked on. This is another project. It's obvious the Devanagari script, which has been worked out. It's a comparison is the old monument, Islamic monument, and the Louis Kahn building, which is the IIM building. In the same way, the Ka, which is the old calligraphic way it is written, and now to suit the modern printing methods, it is written. Another one, which is the cultural, taking the cultural aspect of Indians into the mind. This is the toothbrush come. We are a community, we are a society where we have to scrap the tongue. Without that, we don't feel that the brushing is done, toothbrushing is done. So keeping that in mind, this is worked out to have, why can't we have the toothbrush itself as the tongue scrap? The another one is a wheelchair by a student. This is also, that is another concern for this has been always a concern for doing something for the blind, for something for the disabled, has been a concern right from the beginning. Another project for the rural India is the lightweight bullock cart. There is a kind of great concern once how the bullocks are kind of cruelly treated, and they are supposed to take so many loads in spite of we have motorized transport and all that, but still the animals are, so the animal kindness is lacking. So one student has designed this Mohan Chandra under my guidance, and this is an aluminum frame, three-wheeled bullock cart. So this is a classroom project. Like that, we have done many classroom projects. This is just a sample. I'm showing it to you. How the concern at that time has been. This is one of the professional projects. The very first professional project is Indian Airlines. In those days, Indian Airlines is the only airline in India. So we are happy to design that, and we used to feel that our symbol is seen by everybody. It flies, and this is the application of Indian Airlines symbol. Vinay Sarkar had done this. Next. Yeah. And another very popular symbol. Two other popular symbols I will show you. Yeah, they're still there after so many years. This is, of course, you all know Amul, NDTV. It's a milk drop, yeah, which is, everybody knows about this. And the other one is, this is, I like this not only for the symbol, the strength of the symbol, which uses yin yang principle, and Satyam Shivam Sundaram, it has got everything, is it? But more than that, why I like this symbol is this is not a professional symbol, although it is such a great one. It is by a student at that time, but it was guided by Vikas Satulekar, and there are many students have worked on it. Finally, this symbol was selected, and still it is a very strong. It is going stronger and stronger because it is so good. But I'm happy because how a student's work can be sometimes mind-boggling. Yeah, there are other national level projects. I won't say much about it. This is, at that time there is a crisis, fuel crisis globally, and petroleum products are not available. Kerosene was not available at all, and kerosene is the most used fuel in India. So the government of India is really worried. So I got this project, and I worked with the scientists of Indian Institute of Petroleum, and we finally made a product which saves 50% of the petrol consumption. This is oxygenator. Another import substitution. It's a life-saving device. I won't tell much about it. This has been kind of talked at various forums. It has won the National Innovation Award by NRDC. I will show you two important projects. Although this is mainly first decade, which is actually centered on NID, but I would not be satisfied if I don't mention two projects done by IDC faculty, Industrial Design Center at IIT Bombay. Only my colleagues only went there and became the first Professor Nadkarni, Professor Chattopadhyay, Professor A.G. Rao. They're still there, and they're retired now, but they're still associated with. And this is the one product which you will never miss it. And also, this is an interesting project in the sense that the government of India had given the voting machine, electronic voting machine, which is a new thing at that time, to both NID as well as IDC. So both NID and IDC, both the teams have worked out. At NID, it is headed by Mr. Vinod Kumar Parmar. Unfortunately, he passed away. But from IDC side, it is headed by Rao, assisted by Ravi Puria. Finally, the government has chosen the one which you have seen, that is by the IDC. But I'm very happy that this is going very strong. And this is one product which is touched by every adult in this country. The other product, which is not very long ago, but recent one, which has done us a proud, is the rupee symbol. The rupee, this is by IDC, from the IDC faculty, Mr. Uday Kumar. So this is, I would like to conclude here now because we have spent enough time, and I would leave the floor open for questions and any other things. I'm sorry I have to rush up because I wanted to cover so much, but we will hope we can spend some time. Yeah, some hands have been raised. Akshaya, please, coordinate them.
Hello, Balram sir, we have Vikas Satulekar sir
Louder,
along with
louder,
us.
please.
Balram sir, we have Vikas Satwalekar sir along with us.
Oh,
Another,
I'm honored.
yeah, phenomenal pioneer in the design space. So I
Mhm.
would be really glad if he shared a few words with us.
Yeah, Vikas should, because I would like to hear. He joined NID even before me. Hi, Vikas. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Looks like he's not there, Balram sir.
Okay, can somebody else, meanwhile, while Vikas is making his system all right or something? Akshaya, can you please
Yes,
do?
sir. So, Mr. Ellen Murugan has raised his hand. So, there's a question from him. So, you're saying that EVM is made by IIT. Then why are we buying from foreign countries?
I don't think we are buying from foreign countries. It is not made by that. That statement is not correct. It is designed by IIT faculty, and then we only design, and then the government will give it to somebody to produce it. I think it is produced by somebody, but as far as my knowledge is concerned, we are not using the foreign EVMs. It is the Indian EVM which is used, made in India.
These are manufactured by Bharat Electronics.
Yes, correct.
So, and one more question from Miss Nisha. So, she was asking, what do you think about Royal College of Art in today's context?
It's a really loaded question. I have studied at Royal College of Art, so it's my alma mater. But today, Royal College of Art is a kind of big brand. But what I'm happy with Royal College of Art is Royal College of Art gives you enough freedom and flexibility, which is necessary for design learning. And they have started Helen Hamlin Center exclusively to look after the needs of the people with disabilities. I think that is a wonderful thing for an institution to do. And the wonderful thing about Royal College of Art is that it is located in a street which is full of museums and art museums, science museums, and a wonderful Hyde Park. You will never find such an ideal location, and that itself, you just be there, and you can't be but a good designer or artist.
There is one more question from the same person, sir. So,
Yes.
Do you see this hybrid forms of architecture as a problem?
Architecture?
As a problem, yes.
Various what? Sorry, the first part I couldn't catch it.
Do you see these hybrid forms of architecture as a problem?
It is a problem. If you want a one line answer, it is a problem. Hybrid is always a problem. I'm never happy with the hybrid. Fusion is different. Hybrid is always a problem.
So, and one more question. Who has designed the new Indian currency?
I have no idea, really. I can only talk about that symbol, which I'm happy with. But the new currency, who designed or whether it is good or bad, that is up to you to decide. But I have no idea. I have no information on that.
Okay, sir. So one more question from Anu. I'm a school art teacher. What do you have to say to aspiring design students? And how do you think we need to guide them?
That requires one more webinar. But I think to answer it somewhat sincerely is I feel design today is quite different from some time ago when it started, and rightly so, because the world is changing. Today, digitalization has come in such a big way. You see, webinar couldn't have happened in 1970s. So technology is something which is very good, and we have no other way but to go with the technology. But many people say technology is a double-edged sword. See, if you are not careful with it, you will cut yourself. I think we have seen examples of that. Social media is full of such examples. Isolation, tribalization. There are many things which are coming with it. Yeah, people are not touching the person next to them, but so much buried into the little screen in front of them. These are all distractions, which you see properly used, it could be a great educative or learning tool, but it could also be destructive tool if it is not properly used. So this is today my message to young people is, I have seen, if I have to say really, most of the young people, they're brilliant. They are all suffering from mental illness. Really, various degrees of mental illness, they're all suffering. I feel like crying when I hear one of them that these brilliant students are having this problem. And we have to somehow address this. And schools are not addressing it. We are putting so much pressure on excelling, being better than the other person, being best, and try our best, come out of comfort zone. I think these are all words which we should stop. This competition is a word which is a 4-letter word. And we are pushing them too much right from the beginning. I see some shows on TV where young little kids are singing like, great professionals like Lata Mangeshkar or people like that. But I don't feel happy about it. I feel very, very sad about it, because when you reach Lata Mangeshkar's age. But if you want to make a 5-year-old kid into Lata Mangeshkar, you have spoiled that kid. You have ruined the childhood. You have ruined, the way people are running after, coaching centers and private tuitions, tuition after tuition after tuition. This is really madness. I hope the parents will realize that. And there is a growing distance between parents and the, children, even grown-up children, because they feel the parents are useless. The teachers are useless because the screen will tell you much more than the teacher and the parent. And their parents are needed, that guidance is not given. And where the teacher's role is to open the eyes, that's not being kind of given. So these are many problems actually. We could talk maybe in the next session when we're talking learning without teachers, when we have more time. I would like to dwell with it, much more. But many things are happening due to this social and technological.
So the next question from Mitesh Sudhar. So what is the future of design career in India?
You see, design career in India is really promising, really promising. I'm not saying it because I'm the designer. Once I thought probably design should stop existing. But now I got a, re-hope. The kind of design we are talking about. See, design is a problem-solving process. It will never end. As long as there are problems, there will be design. So in that sense, design is needed, but it is not enough for a country of our size. We produce, I think Ranjan used to be good at giving these figures, but I think we produce 5 lakh, say, engineers, but we produce hardly 5,000 designers every year. So there is a big gap there. And our problems are so many. You see, European countries, rich countries have less problems, but developing countries have more problems. But we have less designers. And there are examples of where there are more designers, the country has, the society has become better, like Japan, like, even China. And so these are many examples. So there is a great future in design. The only thing is, there is not enough awareness even after so many years of design existence in this country. And there is a big confusion. And many people think fashion design, they equate fashion design and design. There is a slight difference. You see, the design as we see and as we have learned is not style. Style is part of it, but design is not just only style. Much beyond it. So this is what there is a great future. There is great future. I always the other day I was talking. Indian government talks about make in India or made in India, but without design in India, how can you have make in India? If you have only make in India and design in India, some other foreigner does it, you become a cheap labor for others. Like today, we are thinking of China as the labor hub for country. I don't like India to be a labor source of labor for the country. This India should be source of brain to the world, not just labor.
So the next question is from Ramesh Kant. So how to make quality design education accessible to all aspiring students across the country? And is NID collaborating with the state government to improve that?
This question should be answered by the present executive director of NID. It should not be asked to me because I'm not there. And of course, I keep kind of connection with NID because NID is my mother. But right now, what is happening, I have no idea. But the question is excellent one. We should be doing something to make the design popular, take it to the common man in a very, very wide. Probably we will touch on that when we talk about barefoot design. I've been kind of about this for a long time, but it's not as easy as it is said or written. But yeah, we should try towards democratizing design. We all should. I'm not pointing finger at government. Government is not doing, or society, the designer society is not doing, or the teachers are not doing. There are various things. It's a very complex kind of situation, but we should move towards democratizing design.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Ganesh. So, do we need to redefine or rethink about the India report?
Absolutely. We have to rethink about India report because India report was written 1958, so many years ago. A lot of water has flown under the bridge, as they say. So it has to be, I always believed that nothing is static. They say change is the only thing which, doesn't change. In the sense, so we have to redefine all the time. Even Charles Sims would be horrified if he feels that we hang on to this India report as it was in 1958, because the world is not same as 1958. This is 1900, this is 2020. So we have to redefine. We have to see what is today's LOTA. We have to interpret in today's society, today's technology, what is the right kind of design education. I agree.
There's one more question from Nisha. So,
Yes.
I just wanted to also know if you could speak briefly about the history of art in comparison to design, And does India even have a history of art, or did we just have craft and design?
Of course, I mean, the answer is very simple. India had history of art, but maybe your idea of art is different. But in India, we have craft, we have art. What is miniature? Miniature is not art, miniature paintings. What is kalamkari? Is it not art? The kalamkari paintings are not art, Tanjore paintings are not art. These are all art, but we don't say in India, there is no separation. Professor Kumar Vyas mentions in his book, Design in the Indian Context. You see, we have in India, we have only Kala. Kala, it kind of includes everything, craft as well as fine arts. You see, we will not differentiate fine arts from the applied arts. This is where the problem comes. India always had art.
So the next one is from the same person. So do you also feel the current industry of UI and UX is just a packaged version of how design was practiced earlier?
No, it is a development. I don't think it is a kind of repackaged version. This is the design has to, as I mentioned earlier, design has to change according to the need. Then we realized when the professionals have realized that design is kind of going away from the user, away from empathy. So to bring it back to the focus, clear focus, they've started using the word user interface or empathy. Empathy is another word which I keep hearing nowadays. Earlier it was not there. Or human-centered design. These words have come to guide the design back on the tracks of human being. Human design is always a human focus. So that is it. Otherwise, the change is necessary.
So the next question is from Shafali. So don't you think the design curriculum should be reviewed, or should the curriculum of NID should be provided to other universities?
As I've said earlier, every curriculum has to be constantly reviewed. You see, nothing should be, if anything is, kind of made permanently without any change, there is something wrong with it. It is dead. A person without moving is the person who is dead person, right? If you are moving, that means you are changing. And if everything else is changing, how can education be without any change? So it is, it has to be the answer is very obvious. Education should keep changing every day, every year, not every century or every decade. As much as possible, we should keep changing. We should not be, you see, every day things are growing and I am growing and everything else is growing and things are constantly changing. So we have to address that change. If you don't address the change, then there is something wrong, and that's how all problems start. You have to constantly review the curriculums.
So the next question is from Ashini. So is there any alternative to learn design if one cannot get into design school?
Absolutely possible, because schools are not the only places where you learn. Learning takes place anywhere, anytime, provided you know how to learn. We have this kind of, nowadays it has become a fashion of giving our mythology, so I would resist from it, but Ekalavya is something which we should remember in Mahabharata. He had learned without any teacher. So learning is, to come back to the question, learning is absolutely possible without schools. You can learn, some people are learning at home. Some people are learning, outside. All the tribals don't have schools, but they still don't think, I don't think they're any less intelligent. Some of them are very intelligent. You can climb a tall tree. which is full of honey bees, and you can come out without a scratch, that is some kind of intelligence you have, some kind of knowledge you have. So, isn't that? So there are many ways of knowledge is not bound to only schools and only teachers and only four walls. You can learn from anything. How we learned our language? By imitation. Imitation is one way of learning. Observing is another way of learning. So there are many ways of learning, and it is possible to learn without a structured school or college. But there is one thing I must say, I can't totally disregard schools and colleges because I'm working in a college or school. The structure helps you to learn faster. You can learn by trial and error also. But after 100 trials, you might learn one thing, whereas this is told to you, you should, a little bit of hint that these things won't work, only this thing will work. Somebody who has got experience have told you, then with one trial, you will get it. So this is the difference. Structure will help you do something efficiently and within lesser time. That's all the schools and colleges should do.
So I think it's the last question.
Yeah.
From Yamini. So, sir, don't you feel that the students that are aspiring to be designers are not really working for it, but are trying to become better than the others? And if yes, then what should we do to change the mindset of the students?
Sorry, will you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. So, don't you feel that the students that are aspiring to be designers are not really working for it, but are trying to become better than others? And if yes, then what should we do to change the mindset of the students?
Yeah. See, this comparison and competition is a very negative thing. I look at it very negatively. You it puts a pressure on you unnecessarily, which would the main focus would be how to be better than how I should learn. Always learning happens in a relaxed and peaceful environment. You could learn much more than if you are trying to in a competition, you are in a running race. Yeah. You will sing much better if there is no competition, rather than there is a competition and there is always some pressure on you. A lot of mental problems are because of this, and I would really stop. We should stop this unnecessary competition which we start our children right from the beginning. This running race, should be stopped for a better learning. I feel the learning will be far better in a relaxed and voluntary way rather than a forced way. We tell our children right from the beginning, medicine is good, so you should learn medicine. To that extent that he will soon get a kind of rebellion against it. Anything which is pushed too much will start a reaction. So that is happening today. The many students are mental wrecks because the parents are forcing on them, or the teachers are forcing on them something which he doesn't want to do, or he doesn't want to do in a pressed manner. On his own, he might come to it. We should wait for it, because some people will take time, and slowness is not necessarily bad thing, and fastness is not necessarily good thing. Whereas we made it, always, fastness is better. This is also today's fast-paced life. Fast food, we all know fast food is not good, but we all are hooked to fast food. This exactly happens with learning too.
So there are a few more questions also. Would you like to answer them?
If you give me time.
Yeah, sure, sir. So the next question is from Shriya. So don't you think feedback is essential to proper learning as opposed to self-learning, which has no feedback?
Yeah, self-learning is always better with your self-initiated feedback. You see, feedback should not be judgment. You see, there is a difference between the judgment and the feedback. I will ask you how I look. I've got a new dress and I will ask you how I look. That is, I'm asking your feedback. Yeah. So that I can make myself adjustments or whatever it is. But if you're putting me in a judging place all the time, so the focus will be on winning something. Win anything. Born to win is a rubbish concept. You are not born to win anything. You are born to enjoy life. You are born to be happy yourself. Winning is too much. It is rubbed into us right from the beginning.
There's one question from Elil Murugan. So, is there any type of relationship between the creativity and applied art with mural paintings, which was done at ancient times?
See, creativity is there in every act we do. Creativity is now made and abused word. It has become, it is used everywhere. But tell me which act you do is not creative. You are making a new dish. Is it not creative? Even the same dish you are doing tomorrow, you want to try something else. Is it not creative? So to me, every human act is creative. There is creativity in it, whereas in some professions, it is made obvious. Yeah, in science also there is creativity. Don't you think there is creativity in science? There is creativity. But in some professions, where self-expression is the main thing, there we call it creative. But otherwise, creativity is there everywhere. In art, so-called art in quotes, the self-expression is dominant. Yeah, that's the only thing. But there is also in this art, so-called fine art, also there is message. It can't be expression for expression's sake. There is always something in it, which tells you, behind the, aesthetics.
And so there's one question from Nisha. So what do you think of Shanti Niketan in comparison to NID today?
See, I would not like to compare. It's unfair to compare two institutions which I'm not connected in any way. And even if I'm connected, I would refuse. I mean, I'm very indirectly connected with both the institutions. And that is one reason why I don't want to compare.
Okay, sir. So, in the coming year, how will be design school due to COVID?
This, I cannot, nobody knows how to. All that I would say is, we should, in one of my talks I said earlier, things are very uncertain. Nobody can say definitely. And I don't believe in astrology and other such humbug. But because it's uncertain, we should prepare ourselves to deal with uncertainty. Okay, I will handle it, even if it happens. Yeah, even if it happens the other way. I think the army is kind of makes itself by working out plan A, plan B, plan C, and things. We should also have what will happen. And if we are, the whole creativity or innovation comes here. In an uncertain situation, you should have the confidence to deal with it. Okay, I will deal with it. I will deal with it. So that is the that is the attitude we should have to survive in this COVID time. But more than beyond that, I myself don't know. You see, we always go.
So,
Right? So, but we always go with the hope that we will live up to the next webinar and I will be again talking to you. Yeah, but I might die tonight. Who knows? Okay.
so I think we'll finish off with this question. We are also running out of time. So this one from Nisha. So I feel a lot of advertising industries are responsible for destruction of design and mental health crisis among designers.
Well, she said it already, but I would like to add one thing. There are so many sweets. So we can't punish the sweet sellers for selling sweets. It is up to you to buy the sweets and eat it or not. So there is some public responsibility too about it. We can't punish the advertisers for their bad advertisements. There is a censor board and there are other structures, but it is basically for you. If I'm selling something bad, you should know it is bad and you should resist from it. It will automatically die. So this works. So from public also, the message should go for a bad advertiser that this is bad. I'm not going to buy it.
Yes, so I think we are done with the questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Till
Thank
this
you
time,
so much.
yeah.
It's a very nice session.
Pleasure.
It's always nice to hear stories again, reading it from the books. So it was actually very nice to see all the photographs. So it's not just about how